Residency real estate seminar. I am Justin, the realtor. Just want to make sure, can you all see me, hear me? Can you see the slideshow? It's been a long time since I've operated Zoom. Most of it's, but so let me know. Someone give me words of wisdom, a chat, a thumbs up, a middle finger. Give me something.
Can hear you.
Yes, we can hear me. Okay, can you see the slideshow on your screens?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. So Troy Bergman from John Adams is going to be talking first about the physician loans, and then we'll bring up Kristen Thompson to talk about the leading RE and how we can help residents throughout the world in 70 different countries, and then I'll come on and bore you with the actual process of buying a house. So Troy, join us. Thank you, sir.
All right. All right, hey everybody. My name is Troy Bergman, Justin, with John Adams Mortgage, and we handle the mortgage financing for physician loans or doctor loans. So we wanted to just kind of give you some highlights and some pointers in regards to the financing opportunities that are involved with physician loans. So one of the number one thing that people talk about for doctor loans is that you can do as little as $0 down. Traditionally, if you're doing other types of loans, down payment requirements can be 3, 5, or 20% down. So it is really nice to have the ability to do as little as $0 down. To qualify for a doctor loan, you have to be an MD, a DO, or a DDO. So that's something as a designation to just check to make sure you've got that. As far as private mortgage insurance, you may have heard that with those words before, but typically when you're putting less than 20% down on any type of mortgage loan, you have to pay PMI, private mortgage insurance. For a physician loan, you're doing $0 down and you don't have to pay that PMI. So that's a really, really nice benefit for these doctor loans. If you were to borrow maybe $300,000 in a loan, that PMI could be upwards of $100 or $200 per month on a traditional type of loan. Again, the doctor loan does not have it. So it saves you some money in your monthly payment. Now, taking a step back and talk about doing as little as $0 down, it is important to note that your down payment option is $0 down. However, you still have expenses that come along with buying a house, such as property taxes, homeowners insurance, closing costs, things like that. So if you were to buy a home, let's just say for $300,000, you still may need somewhere between maybe $6,000 and $8,000 to bring to closing on a $0 down doctor loan. So just keep that in mind that there are still some expenses that come along with buying a house with the $0 down program. One of the other nice features is that when you are in your residency, when you have student loan debt, the doctor loan gives a lot of flexibility to mortgage lenders to not hit you with all of that debt when you're trying to qualify. Again, traditionally, we compare the doctor loan to some other loan products that are out there. A lot of loan programs require you to use 1% of your outstanding loan balance. Some programs require you to use 0.5% of your loan balance. The doctor loan gives even more flexibility than that. And it's based on how many people are applying and how many people will be living in the property. But as an example, we have a client that we're working with right now that has $200,000 in student loan debt. Even the most competitive loan program outside of a doctor loan, that person will be hit with $1,000 a month as they go to qualify for the loan. The physician loan is allowing us to only hit them with about $230 per month in their payment. So it really gives you some more purchase power as a resident when you have some of that student loan debt that it doesn't negatively impact you from trying to buy a house. When can you start? Can you buy a house before you even start your residency? That's a very common question that we get. The answer is yes. So if you are starting, let's just say your residency contract shows July 1st as your start date, you could close on a house in April or May or June, whenever you can close prior to that residency contract start date. It's just important to note that you need what they call reserve. So let's just say, for example, that your start date is July 1st, and you say May, June, let's just say that you want to close on your house on May 1st. You will have to have 2 months reserves for May and June until you start work. You'll have to have that money sitting in your bank account even after the closing happens. So we want to make sure that you'll have that money saved and be able to make those mortgage payments moving forward. So if your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month, after all closing costs and taxes and insurance are paid, they'd like to see $4,000 sitting in that account. Those funds can be gifted from family. They can be in a retirement account or a stock investment account. So there's different ways that we can meet that criteria. It's just something to note there. So one other thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about today is, what does $2,000 a month get you in regards to renting versus buying? So I think Justin's going to dive a little bit deeper into some of those things, but just to kind of give you a general idea, if you were to buy a house for $250,000 and we use an estimated interest rate of 4.75%, interest rates have been trending upwards over the past few months, so we are seeing rates that are hovering in that 4% range now. There's no longer 2s and 3s available. But using an estimated rate of 4.75, using annual taxes of $6,000 and insurance of about $1,400, that gives us a total mortgage payment. So the mortgage, taxes, and insurance totaling about $1,930 per month. So $250,000 on a purchase price as compared to what that gets you as a rental, it does provide some opportunities for you to compare and contrast, what might be the best fit for you. So that's kind of everything, just some quick highlights on the doctor loan program that I thought would be helpful to share today. Justin, was there anything else that you wanted me to hit on?
Yes. Can the doctor loan be extended to a veterinarian?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes. Veterinarian, yes. Chiropractor, no.
Chiropractor, no.
Yes.
What about PA, physician's assistant? Okay. Is there a penalty in interest rate for using a doctor loan?
No. So that's a good question. So we talked about interest rates at 4.7 today. Conventional rate is 5 doctor loan rates versus so the doctor loan interest rates are actually more attractive than.
So even if you were putting more than 0% down, it still benefits you to use the physician loan program, because not only does it count your debt differently, but you get a better interest rate.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the Zoom for Troy? He will be leaving us, and if you have questions later, I will do my best to answer them, but now is your chance. If you have questions that you think of later, by all means, enter them into the chat, text them to me, send me a Facebook message. I don't care. Just don't feel silly about asking a question. This is, if I come into your doctor's office, I am going to have a ton of questions for you, I promise. And I don't care how stupid I look or sound. So do not feel silly asking a question that you don't know the answer to. Thank you so much, Troy.
Okay.
In the slide, you have Troy's contact information, as well as the link to his specific website that he will be able to. So next, we're going to bring up, and she's going to talk about residencies outside of southeast Michigan area where I personally will be your agent if you. But we have a network all around the world, and we're able to help you no matter where your residency match is. So, Kristen, thank you so much.
Justin, Lindsay, thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Thompson, and I help our agents place referrals. So Real Estate One and Max Brook Realtors is a member of a large network of brokers called the leading real estate companies of the world. It is comprised of top independent brokers such as Real Estate One, Max Brook Realtors, that are in the top 5% of their marketplace. We have these connections through the leading real estate companies of the world, locally, nationally, and internationally. So if you get matched to a program that is outside of Southeast Michigan, reach out to Justin or Lindsay, and they're going to connect you to me and get you in touch with a local reputable realtor, just like they are in their marketplace, in a marketplace where you're matched. So Justin has recently reached out to me, and we've helped his clients connect with a realtor in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Madison.
Madison,
Yep.
and also in Nashville, Tennessee area.
Yep.
So through that, Justin and Lindsay reach out to them, tell them what you're looking for, tell them what your needs are. They'll relay that information to me, and we'll get you in touch with an agent typically within 24 hours who can help you in the marketplace that you're looking. If for any reason that agent specifically doesn't work out, let us know. And we are more than welcome to get another agent who is a better fit for you. So being a part of this network, again, it's comprised of, this page real quick. It's comprised of 550 companies across the country, which means there's 4,600 offices with over 150,000 sales associates out there available to help you. This network of independent brokers outperforms top competitors such as Keller Williams, Compass, Coldwell Banker. The franchise names that you think are everywhere, you'll get connected with local independents in their name. We can help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So the when we send you someone, what do you need from them aside from where they're going?
So typically when you send me someone, where they're going is helpful, and then what type of criteria they're looking for. If you're looking to rent to begin with, most areas we can help you with a rental. Every state is a little bit different, and not all agents cooperate with helping with leases, just because they're not readily available or they're privately offered. But they will at least help you provide you with those resources. So like a budget, what you want in a home, whether it be a rental or a buying, is helpful to know. And then that same agent, hopefully, if in 3 years you decide after your residency you like where you are and you give a job offer there and you want to buy, put down roots, we are then able to connect you with that same agent all over again. Or if you would like a second opinion, we're able to do that as well. So really just the criteria, if you know that, if you don't quite know that, if you can ballpark an idea, then that local agent can tell you, yes, it's feasible in the market, no, that's not feasible in the market. And then also a lot of great things about this network too is they're similar to company sizes, such as Max Brook Realtors. So they have a mortgage company, they have a title company, an insurance company. So it's really will be a one-stop shop.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping through to talk a little bit about that. As much as Lindsay and I would love to fly and show you houses all over the country, that is not feasible. Darian won't let me leave the dogs home alone with him for that long. So All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we have a couple questions in the chat. The first question was, can the physician's loan be used after residency is completed? I don't need Troy to answer the question because I know the answer is yes. So you can use a doctor loan throughout your entire career. The only thing that changes is after you become an attending, and Troy, do you know if it changes when they become a fellow, go from residency to fellowship prior to attending, where the debt is counted differently?
Yeah, residency and fellowship, you get flexibility on student loan debt.
Got it.
Once you're past that, then they hit you with that.
Got it. All right. So I don't know if you could hear him, so I'll just repeat very kindly what he said. So that means through your residency and your fellowship, that student loan debt assistance is going to work for you once you become an attending, which, let's face it, that's not going to matter anymore. So don't worry about that. That's where you're going to be. Second question was, oh, yes. Okay. So this is a conventional product. The vast majority of sellers do not care if it's a physician loan or not. What they care about is a conventional product. So I'll talk a little bit about loan products, but at the end of the day, this is a conventional product. What we will do also is tell people your story and tell people that you're a new doctor. And I am great at hitting that emotional chord with people, because at the end of the day, the vast majority of sellers, this isn't just a business transaction. This is an emotional transaction, and they want to know someone is moving into the home that is also going to love it and all of that stuff. So it's very rare that we're going to find any resistance to that. Now, if we get beat because someone just makes a better offer, then that's what it is. But we're not going to get beat because someone has a different product. Awesome. All right. So now you get to just hear me talk a lot more. So if you are leaving the state and hold on, I'm doing both here, y'all. So be patient with me as I click the buttons that don't want to be clicked. Okay. So if you are leaving the state and you are not moving to Florida, then Troy is not going to be able to help you with your mortgage, with the physician loan. But the original physician loan company, they've been around for 30-something years. So I can recommend them as a company, but I can't endorse some individual loan officer from them the way I can endorse Troy. I know where his kid plays hockey. I'll go to the rink and give you an answer if that's what it takes. But this is a great lender. I put the link directly to their website right in the PowerPoint for you, so hopefully you can click on that. There are a lot of fake doctor loans out there. Please be conscientious, and if you have any questions, just ask. I am happy to investigate from my perspective of what that specific program really is. All right. So you've matched, and now what? So do you buy? Do you rent? Do you find someone's couch or basement to live in? Because let's face it, you're not going to be spending a ton of time at home through your residency. So really, the reason that I am going to recommend you buy in most instances is because this is the foundation of wealth building. And if the right decision is to rent, then Lindsay and I in our area can certainly help you with that as well. We want this to be the right decision for you, which is why I'm going to compare and contrast. Renting might be the right choice for you. That's perfectly fine. One thing I do want to point out about the physician loan is there are no restrictions on what you can buy aside from like a trailer with wheels on it. Okay, can't get a mortgage for that. So sorry, that's an auto. But you can do a condo, you can do a duplex, you can do a single family home, whatever it is that we have for you,
you can buy. So don't feel like you can't buy a condo. That was something that someone brought up to me the other day. That is not true of our physician loan. It might be true of other physician loans. I don't know. Some people suck. Keep it trying. So how it goes. So buying versus renting. What is your cost when it comes to buying, and what is your cost when you are renting? So when you buy, even though you're using the physician loan program, like Troy said, there are still closing costs, there's still expenses that you incur, right? If the furnace breaks, you have to call and have that fixed. And that those are expenses of owning a home. When you have the cost of renting, you have your rent, you have your security deposit, you have application fees, cleaning fees, God forbid, you have a dog or a cat, and then you have the pet fees. So there are expenses to both sides, which we're gonna see realistically are pretty evenly spaced when it comes to the cost of moving in, because this great program has 0% down. So either way, you need to be saving money. You should have been saving money. I know that the vast majority of people are not working. Let's just be real, right? How do I save money? So that's where the gift funds from, does it have to be a relative, right? It has to be a relative. Okay, so it can't be Johnny under the bridge, but Johnny under the bridge can accidentally give your mama some money. There are ways around that, but you didn't hear that from me. You didn't hear that from me. Troy was plugging his ears when I said that. Okay, so looking at the Royal Oak area market, that is where my office is. That's where I spend the bulk of my time. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and I'm using 2, meaning 1.5 or 2, 1,200 square feet. If you want to purchase, you are looking at $9,300 in closing costs. That is the highest estimate that I can possibly find for a $250,000 house. Chances are I am wrong, and I am wrong high, and I'm okay with you spending less. And then you need about, say, $4,000 in reserve funds if you closed in April, because then you would need May and June reserves, right? So your monthly payment, which includes the PITI, P-I-T-I, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is $1,900 a month. The biggest factor in your monthly payment is going to be not just your purchase price, but the taxes. The taxes are going to be the biggest contributor. We can control your interest rate, we can control the purchase price of the home, but we cannot control are the taxes, which means that we might have to have a conversation that there are just some cities that maybe you can't afford to move into right away, and that's fine, because thankfully in Metro Detroit, there's a bajillion different cities that you can move into. So the average rental right now in Royal Oak for 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Sorry, I'm going like this because I finally got the screen to work next to me, so I'm really excited about that. So $2,300 a month is about the norm. You could probably find something for less. I was going to make a rude comment, but I stopped myself. I'm getting so good at that. So your security deposit at 1.5 times would be $34.50. You have a $50 application fee, $250 cleaning fee. Some people charge $300 for that. So your move-in costs are still over $6,000. So the difference in price of buying and renting for that initial cash on hand is not that different. So that's where, now we start talking about, well, what is the benefit of one or the other? So when we talk about the overall cost of buying, we are looking at how much you pay to move in, what is the maintenance of that home, what is your insurance, all of those things. Now remember, when you are renting, you are paying someone's mortgage payment, you are paying for their insurance, you are paying all of the same things. You're just paying it to someone specifically instead of to your own mortgage company. So the cost of renting over 3 years on a $250,000 house is about $85,000 in rental costs. How much of that do you get back when you move out? That $3,400 security deposit, right?
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, that's right. Lindsay makes a good point. If you're lucky, if you have an anxiety-ridden dog like Gary and I, who's on lots of Prozac, you won't get a damn bit of that. So the cost of buying, we factor in, you've made all of these payments, right? You've spent $70,000 making your mortgage payment over 3 years. But with appreciation and with the benefits, that come with buying, you're actually only spending $36,000 over the course of those 3 years. Because if you sell and you have equity, that's how we get to those numbers. I'm not going to read all of that on the slide. You probably already have, and you can always go back to it. All right, so why am I going to say equity 40 more times during this presentation? Probably because I think it's my favorite word in the whole world. I love equity. I will talk about buying equity, having equity, selling equity. Equity is the foundation of wealth. So over 3 years, right? So obviously I'm using 3 years because Jerry and his residency is 3 years. Maybe yours is 4, maybe yours is 5. Maybe you signed up for a 7-year residency. Do they make those? Oh, I'm getting a head shake, so that I'm so sorry if that's you. So 3, it's so sad. So 3 years of equity. In 3 years of equity, you have over $40,000. That is profit. If you sold your home, that's what you walk away with minus the expenses of selling. So most of that is made up in appreciation. This model is using 2.5% appreciation. That is immensely low, comparatively speaking, to the last 3 or 4 years, but it is on trend for what the appreciation in our area of Southeast Michigan from 2000 to 2021. So a 21-year span, even with the crash of 2008 and even with the spike from the COVID era of home buying, we are still at a 2.5% average across the board. So no matter what, you can trust that you will have appreciation. And that is going to be key to building your equity. Okay, so do we have any questions so far about that? Hold on, I'm checking the chat. I don't see anything new. Liz was the last question. Thank you for your question, Liz. Okay, let's move on to the actual steps of buying a house. Okay. So the steps for you as a new resident are a little bit different. So first you have to match. Great job, you did that. Then you have to meet me and Lindsay. You're already one step ahead. So now we're on step 3. So next, step 3 is get pre-approved. So now you have to meet Troy. Well, you're already a step ahead. You already got the link to his website. You got a cell phone number, but that is legit. His cell phone number, he will answer. He will text you. He will answer. He's available. Then we're going to actually start the home search process. The reason we get pre-approved first is so that we know what our budget is. It's great to fall in love with a $500,000 house, but if you can't buy it, you shouldn't be in it. And that is crucial. If you cannot afford the home, I'm not going to let you get emotionally attached to it, because then everything else will compare and you will end up feeling like you settled. That is called trouble. We don't want to do that. Okay, so after we find the home, we have to write an offer on the home. Once our offer gets accepted, then we move into the inspection contingency. During the inspection contingency, we're gonna look all through the home, blah, blah, blah. We'll go into that more in a minute. But that is that golden time of, oh shit, I am way in over my head. I thought I liked the house, now I don't like the house. And if you drive by the house and you see a squirrel sitting on the porch that looks a little sketchy, you can tell. There is a way for you to get out of this, but it's right in that first period. So don't feel like the first offer you make, the first offer that gets accepted, there's no takesies backsies. There are a little bit of takesies backsies in this process. Then we're going to move into the appraisal time. So after the inspection period, Lindsay and I jump in the backseat of the car and Troy takes over driving that car. So he is going to walk you through the actual loan application process, the mortgage process. He's probably going to ask you for 40 more documents about your life. What's the acronym for the letter that I ask you every single time? The NRPGS or something?
Oh, the MSP?
Yeah, the MSPE. I never remember what it is. But the MSPE, which you already have because you needed it to match, that is something that Troy is going to need because that is the proof that you have fulfilled the requirements to graduate. Then he needs your residency copy. But if you have an Acorns account, a Robinhood account, if you like to do the sports betting, all of those things are probably going to be needed during this application process. The faster you respond to anything he needs, the faster we get to the closing table. Okay, so the next contingency after the inspection is the appraisal. It is my job as a listing agent to get as close to that value as possible. But my valuation of a home, as computerized as I can make it, is still subjective, as is an appraiser, because we're both people. So that appraisal must come in at or above what we offer on the house. The loan can only be written for that value. Now, there's lots of ways to make up the gap and the difference, and we can have that conversation in a house-specific type of way. But ultimately, that appraisal is very important because it determines the value. To go back to Liz's question, the reason why the conventional physician loan product is so valuable is because during this appraisal, there are some loan products that have a stricter health and safety inspection during the appraisal. That's above and beyond the inspection that we do. And that appraiser can require specific items be fixed, repaired, or replaced in the home before the sale can continue. There are going to be homes that don't fit that type of loan product. So this is key that we stay with this conventional product, and then no seller will care. Conventional is conventional is conventional. All right, so after the appraisal, we've worked on all that. Now it's time to close. So we meet, you get a big basket of gifts from Lindsay and I because we don't know how not to give gifts. If you are joining us live and in person, we have a goodie bag for you. But just because you're on Zoom, you're still going to get a little something later on in your email. So make sure you're looking out for that. So you close, you get the keys. Now, sometimes that happens the same day. Sometimes the seller needs time in the home after closing because maybe they needed the money from closing to move on and buy their next house. So we might give them possession. So the closing and the key exchange may be the same day, but they may also be different days, and that is perfectly okay. So after you get the keys, now is the time to celebrate and, make sure you coerce your friends to come and help you move and all that good stuff. Okay, so we have met a lot of people today, and you're gonna meet a lot more people throughout this transaction, but who the hell are you? So I and Lindsay both are licensed realtors in the state of Michigan. We can practice real estate throughout the entire state and any other state we choose to get licensed in. Troy would be your loan officer. Then we have an inspector. Now, Lindsay and I really value the time that you have put into becoming a doctor. And so we try to make sure that we have an all-inclusive package deal for you. We will set up your inspection. We hope that you want to come and learn about the house that you're buying. That is your time. We can set up the carpet sample people or the hardwood refinish for people to give you a call. We can measure rooms. We can decide if the bed is going to look good in this corner or in that corner. That is our time in the house while the inspector runs around turning on lights and testing the dishwasher and then looking in the attic and making sure there's no mold or bats, both of which can be taken care of. So that's where the inspector comes in. Who is an underwriter? The underwriter is the person who Troy basically submits all of your information to. They.
Hold on, why am I echoing? Okay.
I'm not echoing anymore.
You probably, yeah.
You're not muted. Someone forgot how to use Zoom. So the underwriter is the person who makes the determination on a lot of different factors within your qualifications. And that's why having open, honest, transparent conversations with Troy is so important. Troy, how else would you define an underwriter?
Well, we do a lot of the work up front to make sure that when we submit the file to an underwriter, that they're going to come back and say, yes, you're approved. But yeah, like you said, the underwriter holds the keys to getting that loan, to buying that house.
So if we know who the underwriter is, we will be buying them boxes of chocolate and sending no. We will never know who the underwriter is. But it is important that we have anything and everything that they need to make the right decision on our behalf. The appraiser is that person who goes in and looks at the value of the home. They're doing the same basic principle job, but they have more requirements on a state and federal level of how homes are compared one to the other. So it is important for us to factor in what do we believe as professionals an appraiser is going to go in and value that home in. It is not common, but it does happen that appraisals come in below the purchase price. So if we offer $250,000 on a house and the appraiser brings the value in at $240,000, there is a $10,000 gap that then must be filled. There are several ways that can happen. You as the buyer could bring cash. The seller could reduce the purchase price, or a combination thereof. And that combination is the most common way that we find these situations to be resolved. Lindsay and I right now are actually in that situation. It is unfun, newer as it is. It's definitely a situation that can be resolved and done so typically so that everyone walks away happy. The last group of people that you will know only by name but never have to meet is the title company. The title company is an insurance company. They are insuring your property from liens on the house. A lien is what your mortgage company would put on so that it's the promise to pay, right? You have to pay us back or we will take your property. But there are other liens that can be put on a house. Tax liens, a lien because someone didn't pay the water bill, a mechanic's lien from the contractor that built the deck that no one paid. So when you buy the house, all of that stuff should be resolved. And that's why we have a title company. Then the title company, for 100 years going forward and 100 years going back, they will ensure that anyone who comes back and tries to knock on your door and say, this is my house or you owe me money, you don't have to even worry about it. Just close that door, call me, call Lindsay, we'll call the title company, and they'll fix it. Because that's what their job is. It is not an option. It is a requirement of owning property in the state of Michigan. Most states as well, but I can only talk about Michigan. Okay, so what is a strong offer? Okay, so I really enjoyed making these slides for you today, but this next slide is probably my favorite just because, well, you'll see. Okay, this is what all three of our dogs at home think they look like, but it is not at all what they really look like. They're all tiny babies. If you break in, just bring a burger, they'll just let you right in. All right, so what does a strong offer actually look like? A strong offer is not just the purchase price. It's not just the overall dollar that we're promising to pay. Because remember, if the home doesn't appraise for that value, then the sale is at a standstill until we resolve it. So we can offer $200,000 above the list price, but that makes our offer irrelevant at that point. So it's not just about the purchase price. The deposit or EMD, that is an important factor. That is your way of telling the seller, hey, I'm really serious about buying this house. And that deposit is something that ultimately goes towards your closing costs, not in addition to. So if your closing costs are $9,000 and we put a $3,000 EMD down, you will bring the difference, $6,000, to closing. So that all just gets lumped in together. The deposit is something that you are telling the seller, if I back out outside of those contingencies, the inspection and the appraisal contingency, if I back out, I'm going to give you that money because I wasted your time. You could have sold the property to someone else. And so that is something that you are putting at risk, which is why we need to be very cognizant of the amount that is. We have to find that balance. But it's our job as your agent to ensure that we are protecting your EMD at all costs. Now, if you are just bound and determined to give that money away, let's not even go house hunting, and you can just write me a check. I'll take it, and then I'll take it away. All right. So the inspection contingency is another part of an offer that can make it stronger, weaker, indifferent. Lindsay and I, as a principal, will never ask you to waive your inspection contingency altogether. You will have people that are willing to do that. And if someone buys a 70-year-old house without going into it first and turning on some lights, we will allow them to do that. And they may have the home. But I will never let you give up the opportunity to investigate the home that you will be living in and you will be paying money on without, you've got to have the ability to walk away. We will never do that. What we may suggest for specific homes and specific properties is that we waive our right to renegotiate. So we won't go back to the seller because we found a window that doesn't stay up and ask them for $100. But we do have the right to walk away if we find, an attic that has something crazy. Maybe the roof is falling. Oh, that was one the other day. A buyer came to us and they said they did an inspection and there was a hole in the roof, and then in the ceiling, and then in the floor, and the water was going from the ceiling or from the roof all the way down into the basement. And the seller's response to that was, it's never bothered us, so we're not going to fix it. So crazy things happen. But in that moment, we get to laugh and walk away with all of our So we'll figure that out. The appraisal contingency is next. Now, what you are seeing a lot of in this competitive market is in our initial offer, we are saying, okay, you have listed the property for $240,000, which as the listing agent, that's where you believe it will appraise. We're offering you $250,000. So we will give you a $10,000 cash gap coverage. So if it doesn't appraise at the 250 we want it to, we'll give you cash to make you whole. Because an offer is a promise to pay from the seller's perspective. So that's an interesting way to make our offer look good. Lastly is what we call a love letter. This is something, if you don't feel comfortable writing it, you can be damn sure that I will be. Lindsay and I really love tugging on the heartstrings of the sellers that we are writing an offer for. And sometimes it makes all the difference in the world. It might not, but it's worth it. Because if it doesn't do anything, who cares? But if it makes all the difference in the world, then it is worth it. So there is more to writing an offer than just the price. All right. Few more slides and then we are done. Who's in the chat? Oh, here we go. Perfect timing. Lindsay asked a great question in the chat and it follows through right into our next slide. So the inspection period. The home inspector is going to look at everything. Top home everywhere. What if he finds or she finds something that needs to be repaired? Anything. What if they find anything? There are a few options. One, we can say, oh, well, that's easy. My dad does that. My uncle does that. My aunt does that. Whatever. They'll take care of it for me as a gift for me buying it. We can ask the seller to fix it. Or we can ask the seller to give us money so we can fix it. Or if it's just too much, we can walk away. So there are options during that inspection, but it's really important. And in our area, and I would probably argue in any area that you go to, a sewer scope is so important. That is where they send a camera through the main line of the house. That if there is a problem, it could be something as simple as a $400 snake to remove the clog and you keep it moving. If your entire front yard and the road needs to be dug up and replaced, now we're talking about $20,000. So for $200, you have a sewer scope that either tells you there is not a problem or there is a problem, and then we go back to the seller because it was their flushed diapers and hot little car that screwed up the main line. So they're going to pay for that, not us. All right. Next is the appraisal. We already talked a little bit about the appraisal and what that means, but all right. So the value of the property from an appraiser standpoint is based on comparable homes or like homes in the neighborhood. We are going to compare a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom bungalow to other 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom bungalows, unless you've been an appraiser that just did Lindsay and I, and then you just go willy-nilly with it. So, but ideally, their whole goal is to be as like as possible. Size, room count, bathroom count, condition, basement, no basement, garage, no garage, how updated it is. Does it look like Pottery Barn or does it look like Grandma's house? Is it somewhere in between? So that's where the subjectivity of the appraisal comes in, because my version of fully updated might be a little bit different than someone else's. And that's where the appraisal can be a little bit different. But we will talk about all that on a house by house basis. Okay, let's talk about homeowners insurance for just a hot second. You know, we talk about how we are all inclusive, right? We're not just a company. We are an all-inclusive brand. And Brittany Pecora, who was unable to be here with us today, she works for Insurance One. She is going to be able to shop a variety of different companies for all of your insurance needs. Homeowners, auto, renters insurance, RV, boat, ATV, whatever you have that needs insurance, she's got you. So, and she's going to tell you if she can't give you the best rate. Like she will be honest with you. So that's why we love Brittany so much. All right, so. Okay. So as we talk about being all inclusive, it doesn't just mean that I'm going to give you a big hug. I am a hugger though, so watch out. So Lindsay and I have the real estate side. Troy handles the mortgage. We have the inspector. We have Brittany to handle all of your home and auto insurance. We have the title company who's going to handle all of your title needs. We also have a network of people who can handle repairs and renovations on your house as well. So that's where anything and everything you need. We have spent years building this network, and we're giving you access to it because we love you. I mean, it's just how it goes. Oh, this is the companies. Okay. All right. So why does it matter? Why does oh, did you like this? You won't get laid with us. Did you see it? See? I could bet on the Wayne food show too. Okay. Not like this isn't my own little stage, but I would have looked much better up on that big stage. Maybe not with the pipe in my hand, but you know. All right. So why does it matter? Equity equals wealth. Wealth equals freedom, and freedom equals opportunity. So the whole goal of this is to set and create a foundation for the rest of your life, the rest of your career. Healthcare is changing, and we have to be cognizant of the possibility that the pay structure may not stay in line I mean, there's probably an argument that it's not already in line with the cost of becoming a doctor. So I know what Wayne charges, and let's face it, you're not going to make that for a really long time. And the vast majority, the average for 2020, the average medical student had $290,000 in student loan debt. That's a big ass number. That's a really scary number. So if we can begin creating the opportunity to create freedom, to create wealth by building equity, that is what we want to be a part of for you. Not just today, but throughout the entirety of your career. I'm not going anywhere. I have found my passion in this. I'm not going anywhere. So I want to have you, your kids, the grandbabies. I want to have everybody's house in my neighborhood. The important part between buying a house now and then becoming an attendant is that your salary now is, let's say, $60,000. And maybe that changes over the course of your residency by a few thousand, not much. But after your residency, after your fellowship, you get such a massive jump as an attendant. So the concept of being able to purchase a new home and to keep your original home as an investment rental property provides you with two streams of income. It's not just one. You get the profit made from the tenant, because obviously if your mortgage payment is $1,000, you're not going to charge the tenant $900, right? You're going to charge them more because you have to make profit. So your first form of income from an investment property is the tenant, that's the rent. But your second form, that most people don't think about, is the equity that you gain year over year over year. So the difference between the equity in 3 years and the equity in 5 years is significant. Well, what would that look like going from 5 to 10 years? What would that look like going from 5 to 15 years? So the equity is that second form of income that gets generated by your rental property. Now, Darian and I have had this conversation multiple times about, do we keep our home as an investment property? And the answer for us is no. And that's because we have put our blood, sweat, and tears in renovating and fixing the home, and I am too emotionally attached. And if that's the case for you too, that's okay. That's okay. But it doesn't change the math of why this matters. Okay, so do we have any questions? Are there any questions in the chat? I can't see the chat. There we go. Okay, I see no questions. Does anybody want to come off mute and ask a question? I don't see anybody's changing.
So like, I'm wondering your opinion on this. Like, we start in July.
Yep.
Like, all right, my orientation starts in June.
Yep.
I'll be moving into New Jersey. That's like far away. I won't be able to look at houses. For that situation, is, I don't know, 2.5 months seems like a pretty short amount of time to get all this done.
It is, yes, you're right. But what is the difference between renting and buying for you? You're not going to be able to see where you rent either. So if all things are the same, why would you not make a better, wiser financial decision? Right?
Yeah.
A home that you own, you can change. You have to ask your landlord's permission if you can pay it. Now, maybe that's okay. Personally, Lindsay, I don't do good with asking permission. Great at asking for forgiveness, not so good at asking permission. But we have, so you know Alexis Fralick, they are moving to Nashville. Their realtor, who Kristen and I set them up with, went to the homes and did video tours. I don't care if I have to find you 7 agents. If the first 6 are not willing to do that, we will find them. We don't care. Kristen and I don't care. We will. I don't care about the agent in New Jersey. I care about you and that relationship. That is what is most important. Lindsay and I do not care what the address of the homes. We care about the relationship with our clients above all else. Even sometimes that means that we talk people out of making a poor decision. So while yes, it is a short period of time, I am certain that there is at least a weekend or some form of time where you can get to New Jersey. And if you have gone through with an agent who understands the area, who you have had conversations with, and you do these video tours, and then you go and you say, you know what? I do know that because I'm a little bit taller, I can't have a bungalow. I either need a ranch or a 2-story home. Can't have a 1.5 because I can't trust that I will feel comfortable, right? That's a genuine observation. But that means that I'm always going to fit here and I'm always going to fit here. So now you've ruled out all of this section of housing. Next, you say, you know, I have learned through my years of living with other people in university and sharing spaces with people, I really, really need my own house. So I need a minimum of 1.5 baths. I at least need 2 toilets in my home. Okay, great. So slowly, without ever seeing a home, you have narrowed down the exact home that you want. You know that you could change the paint color. So the color of the house is irrelevant. Is it the flow? Do you like an open concept, closed concept? All of these things that we would ask you if you were staying here, all apply. The inspection contingency throughout the country is the same. You have the ability to walk away. So you have an agent who's doing these video tours, you kiki the whole time, you have a great time, you find the house that you want to make an offer on, you make the offer, it gets accepted, and then you say, oh, I'll drive up for the inspection. I'll spend 2 days. And if that one doesn't turn out to be the one, I'm already here. Now let's go look. And again, if that agent isn't willing to then spend the whole day with you, because no matter what, that is the biggest factor. But like Kristen said, if you choose to buy 6 months from now, a year from now, all you have to do is call. I'm not going to. I will set that referral up. Then I will set it up 4 years from now. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's why I wanted to have this number, because there are a lot of myths about buying and renting and the differences and I mean, at the end of the day, there's lots of things on Reddit, but at the end, isn't Reddit just an op-ed, right? Everything is an opinion on Reddit. So there's going to be the opinion from your parents, from your friends, from their parents, from your professors, from Reddit, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. There's a lot of influence, right? So the whole reason we wanted to have an open style format was to make sure that we can answer those questions. But it is a short period of time. And maybe you spend a month looking for a house to buy and it doesn't work out, and then you rent. That's okay too. It doesn't have to be one more than the other. It can be both. But I think as long as it costs you, so it costs you nothing to get pre-approved. It costs you nothing to have an agent, whether they ultimately, Lindsay and I don't get paid until we close a deal. So there are, I don't know, Lindsay, 100 people over the last 200 people over the last 6 months that we have shown a house to that have just vanished. It's like bad Tinder, right? we get ghosted all the time. I never do. If you decide that buying isn't the right process for you in this time period, it's okay to change your mind. Do not feel guilty. Do not feel bad for not hurting anyone's feelings. This is our job. And the agents in our network are specifically chosen because they understand the relocation process sucks. It sucks to move from downtown to Royal, let alone to New Jersey, or to Florida, or to Nashville, or to Madison. It sucks, moving sucks. And it's scary. And buying a house is scary. But at least if you buy it and you don't like it, you can sell it. Right? You can't get out of the lease. So at least you have the opportunity to turn around and say, okay, you know what, this is a bad decision. I'll suck it up for a year, but I would have sucked it up if I chose the wrong apartment to rent to. There's just a lot of factors that play into it for me. I think that as residents, looking at condos is going to be really advantageous. There's no maintenance. You don't have to worry about who's cutting the grass, shoveling the snow. And your average work week is going to be 60 hours plus, right? So to me, I think that condos are a really great option. Condos typically are a little bit more stable because when we talk about an appraisal, the only comparable is other condos in that specific complex. Now, we can go outside of that a little bit, but every condo complex is different. Do they have a pool? Do they have a tennis court? Do they have a community center? Is their HOA $500 a month or $200? That plays a huge role in the value of that individual property. So condos typically tend to be a little bit more stable, which means we're not going to have to be what you see, all over the news of, we have to offer $100,000 more. Okay. If someone is willing to pay that, they can have it. I'll open the door for them. We have to make the right decision for us as an individual. So condos are a great choice because then you have the ability to do what you want. It's still yours, but if the roof is bad, you got to work with it. Sidewalk, hang out with it. Grass, flowers, it's flowers. Right? You get to the place. It's great. But if you have a dog, maybe then you need a single family home. But renting with pets is very difficult. So this and I have a whole slew with them, and I have to say I because they're not Darian did not raise me into her home. But Ghost is my baby, he's my baby. But the idea of us renting with 3 pit bulls that combined are 260 odd pounds, a snake, the lizards, the ornery ass old cat, like the idea of renting for us is impossible, right? So the only choice is buying. The best choice for us is also to buy, not just personally, but fiscally as well. So as your life changes and transitions, that's where these decisions are important. And I wanted this to be less sales pitchy and more empowering, because I really don't care if you rent today or you buy tomorrow. I really don't care. I'm going to be here to help you support you no matter what. And that goes for all of your classmates, not just people who are with us today. But the concept of having someone that you can call, right? And I'm putting this out there, and TJ can be mad at me if he wants to, but I'm more afraid of Alexis than TJ. But Alexis and TJ had an agent in Nashville. Sweet as can be, dumb as a box of books. And we hired him. And we found him a replacement. And that replacement found a house, went to the listing before it was really even active, submitted their offer and got it accepted before they ever saw it. Just videos. She videoed the neighborhood, she videoed the house, she videoed the outside, she videoed the neighbor. She did everything that we would do. But they didn't have to fire me. I'll send that to them. Kristen can send that email. We don't mind. We want you to be happy. And just like I'm not the right agent for everyone because I'm loud and obnoxious and me. That's the beauty of having Lindsay, because Lindsay is a mom above all else. And where I am going to tell you just make a decision, she's going to guide you. And, I'll make you cookies, but she's a pastry chef, so can't even compete with that. If you have a chance, ask her for this cookie brownie thing that she makes. Yes. All right. Any other questions? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody here? Do we have any other questions? All right. Love it. Well, thank you all so much for coming, for hanging out with me, and we will see you all soon. Oh, wait. Oh, you're welcome, Liz. All right. Bye, everybody.